have a quorum?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Well, I guess we can get started. I'm going to start with invocation. Dwayne, do you mind doing the invocation for us?
Heavenly Father, we come before you today just so thankful for all your gifts upon us and our city and our community. And Lord, we would just ask that you would be with the folks around this table as we deliberate over things that can make this a better place to live for all our citizens. Lord, we know that we stumble and we fail many times, but you're always there to forgive us and pick us back up. And we would ask that today, especially, Lord, work with us, help us be one as we go forward in our mission. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen. Amen. So it has been expressed that there are a number of people that have other obligations that they have to attend to after this meeting, and so we're going to move this meeting on along. We could look at the minutes from the last meeting. I was not present. Read them silently, and if someone wants to make a motion to adopt them, we will do so.
Move to approve the minutes.
It's been moved and properly second. All in favor, respond by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any objection? Any nays?
Aye.
All right. So those minutes are adopted. Thank you. The next part on the meeting is a report by Mr. Miller. I believe that Dr. Blaine, who has already been apprised of Mr. Miller's presentation, wants to make an announcement before he returns back to a meeting. He is in Washington at this moment, and so we will let Dr. Blaine go forward with his announcement so he can return back to his meeting.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert. Actually, inside of Senator Wicker's office here in Washington, D.C. We have a meeting in about 10 minutes, and I would like to extend my proxy for this meeting to Dr. Omari, please.
I object with our rules say you can't build that process.
All right, there's been an objection to that. Any other?
I mean, that's what we said before, that representatives could have, people could have representatives here, but they couldn't vote for them.
So what we have done in the past is someone has voted by phone on a particular issue. So do you want to state what your vote is on the issue of funding? You want to put on the table and go into greater detail about the funding that you're seeking to approve today?
Okay. So like this, and I ask what procedure here, I mean, if people are going to be doing that, I think the 2 or 3 people that like to be called in just to cast a vote and walk away. And I'll be glad to get some rest time on the phone. I mean,
Well, I think the precedent for it has been established.
Mayor, I'm not arguing about the precedent about voting by the phone, but that was when people stayed in the meeting, but to vote before we have a discussion of the item is slightly different. But if we're just going to say, yes, you can vote and then leave now, I mean, I know 2 others that told me they'd like to know what's going on in the meeting today that we could get on the phone real quick. My objection to voting by proxy is we have said that in the past that we can't do that. And I don't mean to be other than Dr. Blaine, I realize they're doing good city business, and I'm not objecting to that.
Well, I have heard your objection on voting by proxy.
Yeah,
And
you have to agree with that.
And we have sought another method, and I think your objection to the second part is a bit premature, and that I'm asking him to put it on the table now. That way he can explain quickly what the issue is, and then Dr. Blaine can reach his vote, and the other members can decide what position they want to take. So I'm putting the issue before the group right now. I'm just doing it swiftly so that he can have an opportunity to do that with Wicker. So I would then ask, what would the objection be that we now have precedent of how this has been done in the past, and we're putting it on the floor at this moment?
My question still is this one vote for a whole thing?
No, one issue. We're going through one issue, and that is the issue of the
items number 4 and 5.
The emergency funds. In fact, I will make the announcement now that the issue of the Tiger grant, we are going to pull that from the agenda until we have further discussion on those items. So we won't even present those issues at this time.
Is 4 and 5,
Number 4 is on page 4.
are they actually the same item, just,
One is an explanation and the other is an action item.
is one action item?
Yes, sir.
Okay, the 4 and 5 is one action item.
That's correct. So with that, what I have attempted to do with this report is bring together a comprehensive view of what our fund balances are, all of the recommendations that staff has considered for recommendation to the commission, and then finally to demonstrate what those actions, what the impact of those actions would be through the end of the year. Going forward, it is my intention to have all materials into the hands of the commission on the Friday before any Wednesday meeting, and I apologize for the tardiness of the arrival of this information. And so with that, I've got a number of items here, most of which are either for discussion or for consideration for action at the convenience of the commission once they've had time to fully consider and discuss these things. But there is one matter of pressing urgency, and that's on page 4, item number 4, where I discuss the critical cash flow needs of the water and sewer system. And in that, in my report, I note that the fund balances, which frequently referred to as the Water and Sewer Enterprise Fund, has been depleted due to major maintenance emergencies that have occurred in the last 18 months. And list there 12 project-sized major maintenance emergencies that have occurred and showed the cost for those, and that totals $6,985,000 and some change. The water and sewer systems are facing a significant and immediate liquidity crisis. The balance, the Water and Sewer Enterprise Fund, as of the end of February, has fallen to less than half of the minimum balance required by the bond covenants. Our bond covenants require a minimum of 60 days of liquidity to cover operating expenses. And there I list a number of major potential consequences, list them in the increasing significance. It's important to note that this has been exacerbated by the failure of the customer service system to effectively bill and collect the revenues that have already been authorized. We're working with Siemens to resolve those system problems, and we anticipate that all accounts will be billed for their current and past due amounts within the next 12 weeks. However, we anticipate that even once we've got the billing caught up, it will take up to 24 months to collect those past due balances. And so with that, staff is recommending authorization of obligation and payment of $6,985,782.71 to reimburse the water and sewer systems in March 2018 for those major maintenance emergency expenditures that have occurred since in September 2016 through January 2018. And upon approval, this obligation would be shown on the March 18th financial results.
Do you also want to speak to Operation Orange Phone and the advanced funding that went into?
We would cover that as a separate issue.
Okay, we'll cover that as a separate issue. Do you want to? So does everyone understand the issue as it is?
When you say it will be obligated in March, you didn't say obligated, that's what I guess I'm asking. When you say it will be reflected in March, it has to be reflected as a
Obligation and as a payment.
and as a payment.
Yes, sir.
The obligated in that, the check written for that amount, so it'll be a payment too.
Yes, sir.
So, just as a point of clarification, as we look at the whole landscape, I wanted to make sure, and I'm sorry to go back and do this to you, but the obligated funds that are listed on page 1, the $41 million, I'm assuming that $41 million is some of it is spent. So,
Yes.
just for, as a point of clarification, what we have left, what isn't spent, is the $30 million, correct?
That is correct. Now, a portion of that $30 million is obligated but not yet spent. So the
30.
Yes. The $13,494,000 is the available funds that have not yet been obligated, and the $30,573,000 is the available cash. And that includes available funds and unspent obligations.
So the $17 million that's obligated and not spent.
Yes.
The $13,494,389 that's available through the end of February, so if the commission approves the right at $7 million, does that mean that what's available is $6 million?
As of the end of March. Well, but
As of
yeah,
the end of March?
yeah. Well, remember, there's
Available in terms of unobligated.
right. There's
That's,
going
I
to be
understand that.
And you're gonna add $1 million in money, March collections.
yes. Okay.
If it's $6 million, but they add $1 million, because you collect $1 million in March,
Okay.
$1 million or something like that. No.
Do you want to briefly cover
185.
what the threats are to the overall goals of both this commission and the city?
Yep.
If we fail to do something?
Sure. I identified in this 6 major potential consequences, and I listed them in the increasing level of significance. First is the inability to replace needed fleet equipment. We are really struggling with our maintenance, our field maintenance work, because of failing fleet equipment in our water and sewer system. We are also currently failing to fund the sanitary sewer evaluation survey projects, or what's referred to as SERP projects, that are required by the consent decree. The 2018 budget funded the consent decree program administration only through March 2018. We've still got another 6 months to go on that. And so with that, in the absence of this funding, we would need to borrow funding from the general fund, funded by property taxes, in order to meet our daily operating expenses. That would occur within the next few weeks. And then we would be facing a potential technical default for failure to meet the required operating reserve balances and failure to meet required debt service coverage. And then finally, again, without resolution, we may be facing potential default on the water and sewer bonds for failure to meet our debt service payments. And so with that, it is, the timing on this is crucial.
So I'm curious, and this is, I'm no lawyer, but I'm concerned, is this a legal transfer of funds? Do we have an opinion or anything from the AG that says we can indeed spend this money in this way?
We do not have a legal opinion, but we, according to staff, we believe that there is clear authority within the commission to make this payment.
It sounds like there's an immediate need. I understand the emergency of it. I would be, again, concerned whether it's legal. I wonder if there's a way, for instance, I know that we could fund needed fleet equipment, but, I don't know anybody else, but I would be unsettled to pull the trigger on this, not knowing whether or not it is a legal use of funds.
Let me ask you this, Jonathan, this is an interesting question. If it was funding items A through F, I would tend to agree with you. My question is, if it's funding repairing the sewer line, repairing the water line, is there a question about your mind about what the rest of it?
Well, no, what it's funding is, it's refunding the money on emergency expenditures that have already happened.
Which, I understand that, that's what I'm trying to ask. And I'm asking because I'm curious myself, so I'm not asking, disagreeing or agreeing with you. But we're funding, Bob, if I understand you correctly, you're asking us to fund $7 million worth of work for
Yes.
water and sewer
Right.
projects.
That is correct.
And it's just that you're asking us to fund it retrospectively rather than prospectively.
As a reimbursement of the funds already expended. So
Which we have done in the past in a couple of cases and objected strenuously to doing it again in the future. But we have done it, so I would say that from a question of it's legal, we have.
You got a vote? Yeah, well, Yeah.
I'm not giving an opinion. I'm just, because that's not my role. My function here is to serve as a commissioner. But I would point, and this may be pertinent to the discussion. The commission adopted a plan on March 1, 2017. There are some individuals who were not a member of the commission at that time, but when the plan was adopted, at number 8, it says funds may be allocated annually to be used for urgent needs, and that's in quotes, or emergency issues, that also is in quotes. Projects as determined by the commission. Expenditures from such allocations will meet the priorities established in this master plan.
So it would be consistent with the language adopted in that.
And that's in the plan, and of course, the statute itself says that the commission was to work in conjunction with the city in developing the master plan. So if this is part of the commission's master plan, which the statute charges the commission to implement, then it appears that there's some consistency.
Yeah, and so with that, to answer your question, Mr. Perry, you're correct. The amounts that we're expending are for those emergency repairs. Items A through S are merely listed as consequences of what I would be facing if those items were not funded.
I realize.
The impact, the risk.
Excuse me, go ahead.
No, I said, this would just be the impact and the risk that would
Be associated.
associate with it. So it's not.
I think my concern is, to me, it's an emergency if we call an emergency meeting and say, we have got an immediate need that needs to be funded. Will you fund it? Absolutely. What I don't know is whether or not we can go back to 2013 and fund something that was an emergency.
I'm sorry, this is 2016. This is in the last 18 months.
But I mean, the fund, the figure you came up with dates, emergencies that dated back to,
September of 2016.
Yeah.
yes, yeah, that's what I'm sorry, 16. So, I mean, and again, I'm not casting dispersions one way or the other. I think it's a valid question that honestly I have unreadiness with. And the second thing, since it's out on the table, I guess I am a little concerned, and I appreciate you guys being so transparent with the issue, but it looks like this is just a finger in the dike. I mean, what happens if you don't collect the funds from the water bills to, to meet it next time?
Yeah, that's, I don't have a concern that legally we can do it, just to express my opinion, and again, I'm not practicing law because I'm not even a lawyer. But I don't have a concern that legally we can do it because it's paying for water or sewer, which is within our statutory ability. And we have done retrospective approvals of expenditures before and complained bitterly about doing it. I think it's before, what the term we used before your time.
Yeah.
But I think they're all before your time, but complained bitterly about doing it and said we ought not do it. Going the way you were going, Jonathan, let me ask you first, is this $2 million? I realize the rest of them are probably good hard numbers because you paid a bill, signed a check, and paid them off. Is the $2 million a good round estimate?
It's my good faith estimate. I have spent $1,400,000 on the contractual repairs. I'm in the process of spending $400,000 on the restoring the pavement cuts, and I'm spending $200,000 on grid ties and valve replacements.
Okay, I was going to ask you about the $400,000 for the utility cuts from last time, and that is.
That's happening.
But that's within this money.
That's within this money.
The utility cuts will get done within this.
With this.
Yes.
Okay,
We're working on you, Dr. Blank.
I hear both Jonathan's questions. I think they were good and Pete's your concerns. I like the fact that we do know that we've done things like this in the past. And because of what we're trying to set out to do, especially with these things that are underneath this that have to be done. I mean, every one of them are so important. The first one I've been harping on for years on this commission already, and that is that we don't have the So I wholeheartedly hope that we just move forward with this.
So-
My concern, I was trying to get to a second ago, and I kind of stumbled over and said, because John just said, give me an assurance a little bit stronger that we don't have this problem again. When I came on this commission, there was a bunch of money. There was in discussion about whether it's $50 or $90 million, and enterprise fund is now down to 3. And I realized a lot of reasons for it, one of which is the failure to collect the water bills. But because it has dropped down to 3, all these bad things are fixing to happen to us.
Yep.
And we go stick $7 million in there to pay for what's already been done. Tell me that you're not gonna be here 6 months from now, or a year from now, saying, oops, we had a bunch of expenditures and I gotta do this, I'm gonna go into blind default, and we need to pay for water sewer again, when we've said water sewer ought to be being covered over here. So make me feel good, warm, and fuzzy about it.
Well, I'll let Bob go further into that. What we can express is our confidence in that we won't, right? Our confidence in that we're moving in a positive direction. We can never, and I think you should not trust anybody who gives you a blanket assurance that you'll never have those issues.
I can understand that.
And we recognize the history of where the city has been in terms of the decline in the revenue that we have taken in based on our water collection. And so, we think that it's a grave issue. We're committed to resolving it. What we cannot do is change that history, right? We can only put forth our commitment to rectifying the issue now. I think that what is demonstrated is someone who has a reputation of resolving issues like this, right? And this is his opportunity to bring his expertise to Jackson. What gives me confidence is that not only do I see a plan which is forming to resolve it, but I know that this is a person who has accomplished that feat in the past. And that's what gives me confidence.
Give me one more before we go to
Yeah.
because I know you can't speak for some people that sit around the table with you. Who I know some of them are not quite as concerned about collecting the bills as maybe some of the rest of them are solving that problem, and we'll just drop it that to be said. And I don't think collecting bills is the whole problem. I understand that. There's other issues that go into it, but I think that's a large part of it. Everybody's like, and I hear Bob, and I use that term, I hope you don't trouble Mr. Miller, but say that, all right, here's where we're going with the collection system. 12 weeks from now, you're gonna have this being done, and it's gonna take a while to collect bills. You gotta work with people that also get big bills. Where in a 30,000-foot view is that 12-week plan? I mean, is it bringing people in that says this system that we're supposed to have working, we're going to have it all connected so we now get all people like me that got a water bill up until 4 months ago and ain't gotten one since then, but other people that ain't gotten one for 5 years. I mean, that's what's going to be.
Yes, I'm meeting with Siemens tomorrow, and assuming that the plan goes as it's expected to go, I will pull the trigger in authorizing them to move forward with the execution of that plan. And the 12 weeks actually includes 2 weeks of margin because they committed 10 weeks from go ahead. And so with that, the concern that was expressed is the valid. This all is dependent upon the effective billing and collection of water and sewer revenues. And so, and with that, I'm prepared to make assurances that we are going to have those problems resolved. And we will be executing that billing and collection here over these next few weeks.
And if you were able to collect the bills and past due and all that you got to work out, barring the OB Carter's plant blowing up because somebody knows something, I mean.
Don't put that idea.
No, I drive past it every day and realize how simple the process is. I think about the fuel plant problem. Barring something unexpected, that would fund the enterprise fund where it would continue to grow back rather than be depleted.
And to meet the debt service.
And to meet the debt.
Yes, sir.
So, and I'm one of those people that got a water bill finally, which, great.
We're happy about
and
it.
paid.
Did you pay it?
Yeah. But again, my issue is, I'm gonna pay mine. I'm concerned that this is an ongoing issue. How confident do we feel that of that which is billed, and I do believe the last month of my bill is estimated, if my memory serves, that has nothing to do with what you collect. Do we have an idea of what we might collect in those cases?
This plan also identifies a solution of how we work out the payment of those debts.
Right.
That it is a sensitive plan that does not expect that people dump huge sums of money at one time, and it works within their financing to be able to accomplish.
Sure.
Does the cash flow item cover the ones that have been paying estimated bills grossly overestimated, that all of a sudden going to end up with big credit?
Yeah, well, I don't anticipate that there will be big credits, but to answer the question that he asked, which was a very specific question, which in my words would say, I understand that you intend to build this, but do you intend to collect it?
Yeah.
And I intend to use the tariff as it is currently authorized that allows me to take a full set of measures, which, based on my professional experience, will allow me to collect between approximately 97.5% and 98.5% of those revenues that are billed.
So that means you're going to cut people off of their pay.
It is my expectation that in the absence of their a demonstrated willingness on their part to meet payment plans over time, that their service would be terminated.
What about the ones, and I hate to get in around the water system, but we didn't know if you don't want to do that here. What about the ones that reported, I hear people talking in council meetings about, they go back when they cut off in straight piping a couple of times. What gets done to them?
I will have to get back to you on the specifics of this tariff, but most tariffs
There's a way to handle it.
Not only allow you to bill for their estimated usage while the straight pipe, but there is usually a very significant fine that must be paid before the service.
And I would
can be
say that the
restored.
overwhelming majority are not going to be in the category of people who are being cut off, because they have demonstrated willingness, and most of a big sum of those errors have been on the city side. So nobody is going to be penalized for the city's error. Nobody's going to be penalized because they haven't been billed.
Sure.
And even as the bills mount up, we're going to work with people, and we're going to have those people who are financially in a position where they're unable to pay their bills. If they demonstrate a willingness to resolve the issue, we're going to work with them. Those individuals who ignore it, those individuals who take a position that this isn't of immediate concern, and I know that Jackson won't cut off my water, right? We will respond necessarily.
So just, and I'm sorry to move along because I'm going to have a drop dead date here in a second, but so you referenced $2 million. I'm assuming that's operating that you need a month for the water system, or does that include debt service for the month?
Which $2 million are you referring to?
Let me go back in here and find it.
Are you talking about what I showed in the monthly tables?
No. It was, well, I'm sorry, operating expenses. You referenced operating expenses, 60 days worth of operating expenses is about 7.7. So I went to public school, about roughly a little over $2 million. Well, that's more than that.
No, that's
Yeah.
personal.
So my question is, does that include, yeah, I did go to public school. Does that include the debt service, or is that just operating?
That's just operating expenses.
But you're getting some of that from people who are paying.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, we're not
Oh, yeah, somebody's
failing
paying
to
the
get
bill.
anything.
Yeah, I understand that. Well, I know we've got to move along. Dr. Blaine's on the line, but I will say this. First of all, Mayor, I appreciate your transparency on this issue. I appreciate what you've shown here. It's I can't say that I'm shocked. I mean, it's been going this way for 6-7 years, but it is where we are. But I got to tell you, I'm personally not willing on our words to think it's okay in terms of a transfer of funds. I am all for telling me specifically, if you want to buy equipment, things that I know we can spend money on, I'm fine with it. But I would love an opinion that it is a legal transfer of funds. And that's mine, and I'm ready to vote whenever y'all are.
So that we can let Dr. Blaine get off the phone if he'd like to. Let me make a motion,
Okay.
because he can't vote unless we have.
Absolutely. That's what I'm waiting on.
Although after we make the motion, if we want to have some more discussion, we can, but I think that would let him vote if he wants to vote.
All right.
Okay?
That's fine with
I
me.
mean, I don't want to cut off the discussion with that process.
Okay.
Real quick, how quick can we get an AG's opinion? Is that something that we could press them to turn around quickly?
I think the city attorney would give us an opinion. I'm going to include your legal question in my motion if you give me just a second.
Well, I mean, but there may not be time for that, Pete. That's why I'm asking the mayor. Is there even time?
Exactly.
You can't get an AG's opinion. You would have to write it.
Right.
It would have to go through that committee, which takes a week, and then it comes out on Thursday, so you're at least 2.5 weeks away before you
It-
get. At
Even
best.
with expedited
Yeah,
review.
at best, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Because they only issue them on Thursday, and they're gonna take a week more time.
Yeah,
But-
you might get an expedited review. You're fortunate if you get it within 3 weeks.
As a commission member, not providing any legal opinion myself, right, I am comfortable with the vote.
Okay. I won't give you a motion, Mayor, so you can put it on the floor. And I am okay with Dr. Blaine casting a vote even if we have more discussion,
All right,
as far as personally from my side.
all right.
And I speak only for myself. As abhorrent as it is to me, for us, number one, to be paying retrospectively money for projects we didn't approve, and as abhorrent as it is for us to be covering what should be within the regular city budget, which is the thing I probably most feel is wrong with our process. We're supposed to supplant city budgets, not we're supposed to supplement them, not supplant them.
Right.
And I think this is in a way supplanting. But we did discuss a year ago, plus or minus several months, what if we gave the city, I say, what if we approved spending $750,000 $750,000 fix water leaks, go hire a contractor to fix water leaks and get caught up so the city could stay caught up. So at that time, it was at least, okay, we'd do one water deal anyway. I will move that, assuming the city legal staff says it's appropriate, which I think they would because it's paying for water and sewer. But I understand my commissioner's concern over here. I would like to have that. I don't think we can get an AG's opinion because they will not approve a retrospective. They won't give you an opinion anyway of a retrospective action. So that we obligate, pay, approve. I guess we approve, and then the city council will have to take their action. This $6.9 million, rounded off whatever this number is in this motion, 6.9.
$6,985,782.71.
I'm gonna say $6,985,000 since the $2 million rounded off. I'm gonna round it off at 6.985.
All right.
So we don't keep track of pennies as much on our system. For this water sewer, I would like to have something in there that says, and we're gonna keep this blood if you don't get the water system working. I don't know how to put that in my motion, so I'm not gonna put it. But I wanted it understood that that's where we're gonna go. That's my
Yes.
motion.
So we have a
That can
motion.
have on a second, subsequent discussion.
Yeah, that could be a supplemental discussion, but my motion is that we approve the 6.985 payment to the enterprise, the water sewer enterprise fund, for these particular water and sewer projects.
To restore the service consistent.
So we have a motion. Do we have a second? And we have a second. The issue is properly on the table. Dr. Blaine, do you want to vote on this issue?
Yay.
Yeah, okay, so we have his yay.
Dr. Blaine, would you tell the senator we said hello?
All right.
Thank you for your time, Dr. Blaine.
Thank you, Dr. Flynn.
Bye.
So does it require further discussion at this point, everybody? So I guess the issue is properly on the table. All in favor?
Wait, one
Okay.
touch of discussion, I'll make this quick. I truly don't want to see this come back to this commission again. Funded water sewer projects like this Sure, we might have one big one somewhere, that's a specific project, or a retrospective payment. I understand part of this you inherited, part of it's been dragging up, and part's created by the failure of something that's totally separate from us in the lines that's in the collection. But by saying that we're gonna do this, by my willingness to vote for it, is to say I don't want to see it come back.
And I'm gonna add, I'm gonna hold my nose and vote for it, but I am concerned that this is gonna be an ongoing problem. I'm also concerned that, I'm not certain that it's legal, but in the event that it's not, if legal comes back to your point, maybe that gives us some level of comfort. But to Pete's point, I won't do it again. This is, we've got to figure out a way to build a cat here.
May I have a suggestion?
Yeah.
That we move the motion, and then we can take a subsequent conversation, a strong recommendation, a suggestion to this committee, an advisory to the city on the position of the commission around the issues, and not muddy the motion with the.
Oh, yeah, it was just discussion.
I would like to, there was a statement that I'll make once we go into that advisory and go in that conversation, but if we could just pull the motion.
Yeah,
and go right ahead.
I call for the question.
I don't want to see it, I don't want to see the city or the enterprise funds be in a position of defaulting on bonds. And
That's
so
right.
that's another reason with all the stuff I say before, I don't want to see us in that position.
Okay. The motion is called to question at this time. All in favor, respond by aye. Aye. Any nays? The ayes have it. I think it's unanimous. So now do we, we can,
Advisory.
okay.
Those comments that you all were making about what we would like to see the city do and not do in relationship to bring items like this back to the attention of the commission. I think it would be better held in this type of conversation so they can get on record.
We'll take it. I think I made my point again.
I would just say that all of the statements that have been made to this point, I have no objection to them. I agree. I think that the city, over time, has demonstrated a true capacity to address this issue, a failure to address this issue, and that's what we're here to correct. I think that what I would say is in this administration, I am okay with our work being our defense. So our defense on this issue will be the work that we demonstrate, how we correct this issue. And, if I could change history, there would be a number of things that I would change. And I don't know if this would be at the top of my list, but it would certainly be on the list of things.
Well, Mayor, I'll say this, it's, again, I appreciate the tenor of the conversation, but it's time to get out accurate bill. It's not enough to get out a bill, an accurate bill. And I'm a bit concerned that if our citizens feel that the bill that they got, whether accurate or not, is not accurate, unfortunately, where we are now is people know, just don't pay it. And you've got a debt service you've got to meet. And this is, to your point, this has been an ongoing problem. I talked about 6 years ago, so it's an ongoing problem. But my hat's off to you, being open and honest. I don't know what it's going to do to your bond rating, but I appreciate you coming to us, and Godspeed to you. Good luck.
I have a question. Let me ask a question. Are you comfortable that you know now how the city got into this position? Because I think the best way to get out of a position is to understand how you got in it. And I'm not asking you to share that because it's, right now, are you comfortable that you understand and that corrective measures can be taken that the city would not?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
That's
Siemens.
We can have another conversation about how the
It's a
city got.
Siemens issue.
They won't be ready with this table.
Well, it's not Siemens' fault, but I
Yes,
think it's strictly that we did. We should have done it.
Well, I would say that the city didn't take proper precautions to make certain that the city's interests were protected. And that is not Siemens' obligation
I agree.
to do that.
I think that's true. I think
That's where I'll stop. All right?
And I think there was a mismanaged contract on both sides of the Siemens, in my opinion. I do want to say this. I appreciate at least
That part. That's where I'll stop.
Mayor, I appreciate at least the forthrightness of this question and coming forward with it as you did, because that does demonstrate again a slight difference in change maybe than what we used to. So, I mean, this is, you know, good, blunt, straightforward information saying, come with my hat in the hand, we need some help. And I understand that, and I appreciate it. And while I have concerns with where it is, I realize the practicality of what has to be done. And so,
Well, that credit, you know, I okayed it, but that credit goes to Mr. Miller.
and I give him credit for it, and I acknowledge that, and I will say so.
So,
My only comment is that I understand where members around the table have come with their questioning and good thoughts. But what Commissioner Perry said at the end is all that's been running through my head. We've watched what's happened in the city for some period of time and what we've dealt with, especially on this commission since day one. And we now have more information and more, not just information, but viable plans to move forward on than we've ever been given before. So that puts me at a point that I'm very comfortable. Not saying there's not questions, and I think they're good things that have been brought up, but at the same time, we need to do this because these things that are listed down here have to happen.
absolutely, absolutely. I think that it was a sound decision. Do we feel a need to go any further into the advisory, or are we satisfied?
I think everybody heard what we had.
I got you, and it's recorded.
And I think, and I didn't hear anybody disagree with you, so I mean, I think that's correct. I certainly feel like it.
So there were a number of other things enumerated in Mr. Miller's original presentation. As I understand it, there needs to be further discussion and clarification of where we stand on those things. And so my suggestion was that we cut this presentation short at this time and pick up at the next meeting about some of the additional items in here, whether it be orange cone.
Before we leave, I think we've covered two of them in previous meetings that nobody, I think we ought to at least throw out on the table that we might put out of the way. And then just say, I know you're trying to move and say people got to leave. The number two about the $2 million overrun on the orange cone.
Yes.
We, at the last meeting or the meeting before, somewhere when Charles sat here and talked about $1.5 million or $1.6 million we needed, and it was because we did this and overran some others. I think we kind of agreed to that, whether we made a motion and did it. And Jonathan, can you give me?
I think he's about to put a motion on the
I'm going to
table.
put a motion that we approve that $2 million because I think we've already done it.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. This is to deal with the infrastructure projects that happened
Last year, the year before.
Yes, and the commission requested that those infrastructure projects be advanced and said that they would pay for those projects.
And I think we've already said to do it, and so we were writing it up and putting it in an official motion, and it's done.
So it's been moved and properly second. Call the question. All in favor, respond by aye. Aye. Any nays? Guys have it.
Mr. Mayor, one more part of comment, I'm sorry, Pete. We talked, I think, a couple of months ago about getting your staff to send out the meeting notices and putting it on our calendar far in advance. To date, that has not happened. For those of us who travel, I'm not sure whether we're going to have a meeting or not, and I just happen to be in town. So would you please ask her, it would be nice if she just put them on there for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
But we can't, notice the night before, it's not
Absolutely.
acceptable.
That notice, in fact, I will tell you that we thought the notice had been placed out, and we had to rush last night to make sure that it was out. So we are respectful of everyone's time. We appreciate it.
Fantastic. Thank you.
The other motion can wait because it doesn't affect anything for a while, and so Jonathan can leave. I'll mention when it gets out.
You still have a point.
No, we don't.
Well, yeah,
We got 5 because he's gone.
and
Blaine is gone.
Blaine is gone. Blaine's gone, that's what I was saying.
64.
5, we only have 5.
So I think we move into a work session.
Absolutely. Well,
Or an adjournment. I would like to go ahead and talk about what's in the plan while we're here, if you don't think that's a bad idea.
I don't have a problem with conversation. I know that Dr. Hogan has some pressing issues to deal with as well. So what I don't want to do is have a conversation that everyone isn't privy to.
Let me make a couple of comments about it then, and then we can. I think the number 3 about this 2 million, 2 million, 2 million, and when we're obligated is a non-issue. The recommendation to obligate, we approved $2 million a year for 3 years at your suggestion last September, October. And this is just about when we obligate that $2 million. I think that's a no-brainer, and it's a non-issue discussion. It's just a matter of getting where it's there. As far as I can see. The one on dealing with the $3 million for the Orange Cone, I'd like to make a suggestion about.
Which,
That's
Number 6.
number 6.
on page 6, okay.
Number 6 on page 6.
Mhm.
The suggestion is we need some more discussion on it. That does not need to be at this meeting. But I don't know that I have any objection to seeing us spend some money that we have available on paving. What I do want to see is what, when, and where.
Okay.
I mean, so when we get into some further discussion, that we can come back and say, where are we talking about doing with this? Because I don't want to see us get into what we got into last year, year before, where we paved the cul-de-sac and a dead-end street, nobody lived on it, whatever.
Yeah.
So, while I don't have any real objections, and probably have some favorable opinions about it, let's get together and do some discussion about what we do with that.
So I invite that further discussion. I would say that if we were to take any action at our next meeting, one, I am hopeful that a 2-year capital improvement plan will be produced within, it may be after that next meeting, but shortly after the next meeting. Then that will provide more clarity of where we're headed. A 2-year, we are looking forward to a 2-year and a 10-year capital improvement plan that Mr. Miller is working on. And I would say that if we were to bring this issue up to a vote, then we could do it with the qualification that the money is not to be utilized until the commission enumerates where where we are agreeing.
Whenever we bring it back up, let's have some discussion on what, when, and where, whether we vote on doing it that time or whatever. That's my only, it's not an objection to the idea, it's just a discussion. I mean, let's get a lot of input about it.
I don't have any disagreement there. What I want to do is make certain that we are moving this process along, that we have all the steps in place, that when we're ready to go, we can go. And that we're no longer holding up these projects for the citizens. When I say we, I'm not talking about the commission, I'm not talking about any one individual. I'm talking about the collaboration that has to take place to see this work happen. That we put all of the necessary steps into place so that we're ready to go, we can move forward, and people can see, work happening around the city. So, okay.
Along that line, so that we get the good benefit of the springtime and summertime weather. Before the meeting, any discussion, plans, thoughts about where this is being helpful, so that when we go into the next meeting, maybe we can save that month, because I know you got to fix bids, and you got to do council approve and all this, and I don't want to see us awarding contracts in September again this year like.
We will work efficiently. I am going to motion, and I'm sorry to keep it rushed, but I have heard the concerns of people and what they have to do today. So I'm going to, suggest that we adjourn. All right? All right. Well, thank y'all so much.
I think we adjourned before.
Yeah. It naturally happens.
Just technically.
How much money is this city budget out of the general?
We're trying not to be rude. I'm going to slide this over to you. All right. And this one is, Dwayne, you already signed.
I signed that one.
Okay, now I did not sign this one because I wasn't present. It's the same.